Welcome to Moving Forward for Life with Rosita. Discover your way home. You know, one thing that is constant in life is there will always be change. And changes could be buying or selling a home, the loss of a loved one, marriage, divorce, it goes on. But when you find yourself on a new path, whether planned or unexpected, what you know is home is shaken or shattered. So this is clear. How you process a change will impact the trajectory of your life. Moving Forward for Life with Rosita starts now. Hi, and welcome to Moving Forward for Life with Rosita. Discover your way home. I'm Rosita M. Perez. I am your Discovery Life Coach and Realtor. You know, there's a lot of chatter everywhere, whether it's our friends, internet, churches, even movies that all talk about the experience and harm and how they have dealt with a particular personality. I am talking about the covert narcissist. So as we know, our topic today is signs of a covert narcissist. And I have my guest here, Paula Salem, who knows full well the signs, the harm, and how to get back up from dealing with this type of personality. Welcome, Paula.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad that we're talking about this really important topic. I hope it reaches a lot of people who need to hear this information. So thank you.
It's crazy making.
It is crazy making. That's exactly what it is. It's absolutely crazy making. And that's why we're here to talk about this so that people understand what they're experiencing when they experience it. There's a lot of people out there who are experiencing narcissistic abuse from a partner, and they have no idea that there's a name for this. They have no idea that it's really not their fault, that there are people out there with this condition and it has a name, and there is help and resources for you should you find yourself in a relationship with one of these people.
Yeah, and it can be any kind of ship. It could be a family relationship, a partner, friends. It's across the board.
It is across the board. Family members, you name it. Anybody you come in contact with, you know, can have this disorder and it will affect you. Now, I will say that the closer the relationship you have with these people, the more you're going to see it and experience it. There are narcissists out there who are so charismatic and so lovable. They're the life of the party. No one would ever know, but it's the people that are close to them that see it and get hurt.
Yeah. So I'm one of those people that had no idea that this particular personality existed. And it was crazy making for me. It took a lot of my self-esteem, had me second guessing a lot. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. So today we'll talk about some of the traits that you kind of already mentioned. We'll talk about the varieties of harm, which is AKA abuse, and then share some resources because every situation is different. There are spectrums or levels of this narcissism. So let's go ahead and start with some of the traits, Paula. You already mentioned a couple of them, but let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start with some of the traits that are kind of universal to all narcissistic personality disorders. And I did want to mention that everybody has narcissistic tendencies. Everybody every now and then can do or say something that can be viewed as, oh my gosh, that's narcissistic. But narcissistic personality is a very different thing, and it is actually a mental illness. So some of the things that all narcissists tend to have that is universal is they have a complete lack of empathy. So empathy is different from compassion. Compassion is being able to, feel sorry for someone. Oh, that's terrible, that happened to them. Empathy is being able to step into someone's shoes. Right. So, for example, if I say something horrible to you, Rosita, which I never would, but if I did, I would feel terrible about it because I would understand on some level, a human level, how that's going to make you feel. Narcissists have no idea. So narcissists will, when they attack you, when they abuse you, they have no idea the pain that they're causing you because they completely lack empathy. So that leads me to one of the next characteristics that they all have. They all lack remorse. And part of that is because they lack empathy. They really don't understand, why is she upset that I just called her fat, or why is she upset that I just put her down in this way? They don't get it. And if they did, they don't care. So there's a lack of empathy. There's a complete lack of accountability. They take accountability for none of their behaviors. And that's one of the ways that you can really spot a narcissist, a red flag. If someone never takes accountability and you notice that, very clear mistake, very clear transgression. If they never apologize, you know that person can very well be a narcissist. Now, that doesn't mean someone who sometimes doesn't apologize. That means someone who never does. They do pretty awful things too, and they'll never take accountability. So, and they believe they're special, right? They all believe that they're special. They're all entitled. They all believe that, you know, the world owes them special treatment. So again, that's universal. So they're all very self-centered. They care only about themselves and what you can do for them and give them. So make no mistake, if you're in a romantic relationship with a narcissist, they don't love you. They don't love you, and they'll never love you because it's not a slam against them. They're just not able to. You know, narcissism forms at a very early age, usually from the ages between 4 and 7, you know, when your brain is developing, right? Narcissists tend to have less gray matter. Their brain changes. They don't have the same brain as a neurotypical. So you and I are neurotypical, right? We don't have mental illness. We think logically. We process things logically. We have normal emotions. These people don't. So it's important.
Let me ask you a question right there.
Yeah.
Because, you mentioned that it was part of their brain. So that is already in them. It's not something that happened to them. It's just part of their makeup, part of who they are.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah. So at a very early age, when the brains are forming in children, wires get crossed. You know, it doesn't develop as a normal brain should. And how that happens is when children experience shame as a child, abandonment, neglect, abuse, these kind of experiences as a child, we all think that children are so resilient and they get over stuff really easily. They don't. These kind of behaviors against a child at a very early age does change the way their brain is forming, right? So,
oh, I see. So it's not necessarily that they were born with that. It's the shaping and the trauma that happens as a child that kind of wakes it up, so to speak.
Correct. So a lot of children are experience abuse as kids, but they don't become narcissistic personality disorders because you do tend to have a genetic predisposition for something like that. But typically those that have the predisposition will develop personality disorders of one kind or another. It could be sociopathy, psychopathy, any number of mental illnesses, and narcissistic personality disorder. I'll call it NPD for short in this conversation. That also can be a result of this trauma, abuse, and neglect as a child.
Okay, so my experience, which I didn't know years ago, was that he was Prince Charming. He was charming, sweet, kind, caring, loving, just everything that a woman usually, you know, is attracted to.
Right.
So I just didn't know.
Yeah, no, and you don't. It's so hard to spot, especially if you don't know anything about pathological narcissism. So that's called love bombing. And that's another thing that most narcissists will do to their, I'll call them victims because that's what they are. That's what we are if we've experienced that. Love bombing looks like, for an example of love bombing is, you know, you just met somebody, you went on a first date and they're telling, this is your first date. And they'll say, I've never known anybody like you in my life. You are amazing.
I'm in love.
Exactly. And on the second date, they'll say, and I've actually had this happen to me. On the second date, they'll say, we are going to have such an incredible future together. You know, I've never felt this way about anybody in my life. And I just want you to know, you make me feel like I'm 18 again. And I just think you're the most amazing person that I've ever met. And I want to cherish you and I want to take care of you, you know, on a second date, right?
Yeah, so, I was going to say that's a qualifier.
So that's a qualifier.
Here,
exactly. This
on
isn't
a second date.
Exactly. It's a second date, right? So that's part of love bombing. And so they also, relationships with narcissists tend to move very quickly. So they'll ask you to move in with them after 3 months, kind of a thing. So if you're noticing a relationship's moving really quickly, you're getting love bombed, this is so over the top. It's not necessarily because they're super crazy about you. It could be that they're just love bombing you. They're doing it on purpose to elicit that love response from you, to make you feel special. They're trying to hook you in and reel you in. And so it's very intentional. It's almost.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I want to add, though, that in my healing process, what I found was, yes, that person was a narcissist. And in the same token, I was attracted to that because I had that missing nurturing piece as a child. So all that attention was like I was soaking that up.
Well, that's a very good point. And that's true. So it's like crack, right? So same as me, I'm from a family of 8, and my mom was a single mom, did her best. I had experienced some neglect as a child, and we ate it up. I ate it up like crack candy.
Yeah.
And that's what makes them hard to leave too. Right. Yeah. And so, yeah, no, you're absolutely right. There is a little brokenness inside you. If you get into a relationship with these people and really don't see this love bombing for what it is, as just highly abnormal and highly unusual, many women will run from that and say, dude, there's something wrong with you, right? But women who have lacked that attention, right, and lacked those kind of words of validation and support as kids, we soak it up. And it's like, oh my God, I found my soulmate. I found the man of my dreams.
Right.
And it couldn't be further from the truth. But again, keep in mind, it's intentional.
Right.
And so, yeah.
Let's talk about the varieties of abuse. Like that, for me, I was denied a lot of my reality and my experiences. I would I would share something that hurt me. And then the comment I would receive back is, oh, you're too sensitive.
Oh, that's
you're making
common.
A big deal out of nothing. That didn't really hurt.
Yeah, that's very, very common, to totally disregard another person's experiences and feelings. They simply don't know what to make of it. Because they have no empathy. They truly don't know what to make of it. It's not that they're trying to be mean. They truly don't get it. They truly think, what is her problem? She's just oversensitive. But again, that's the changes in their brain that don't allow them to understand. But what makes a narcissist as well is they also just don't care. They don't want to hear about your problems. They don't want to hear about what pains you. You are there for one reason only, to give them narcissistic supply. So you are there to tell them how wonderful they are. You are there to tell them how amazing they are, how handsome they are, congratulate them with every success. That's what you're there. You're there to make them look good, right? You're there to make them look good in front of their friends, their coworkers, right? So usually you're beautiful, have some measure of success. You're intelligent, you're very, very kind. You're very kind and loving and giving. Because that's part of the narcissistic supply. They will take and take and take from you, and you will be left depleted. And the key is they'll give nothing back. They'll give you nothing back. They just take. So that's another big part of the narcissistic abuse, is they'll never give you anything. It's like a vampire sucking the energy out of you.
And then when in my experience, when I called that person on a behavior that was, excuse me, out of line or disrespectful, there was a lot of denial.
Yes, they call it gaslighting. It's called gaslighting.
Yeah.
So you know that they did it, and they know that they did it, and they even know that you know they did it, but they're going to deny it to your face. And that's called gaslighting, and it's meant to make you crazy. It's gaslighting is a term that comes from a movie. Back in the 50s and 60s, right, where this husband did this to us, it's meant to make you lose your footing, to feel like you're losing your sanity, to doubt yourself. And that's abuse. Gaslighting is abuse for that very reason. I actually experienced somebody who told me I dressed like a grandma. He said, you dress like a grandma. And I called him on it. I said, that's actually not a cool thing to say. And he flat out said to me, I never said that. Yeah. I never said that.
Yeah,
right?
I experienced that too.
But of course he did, because I heard it. You said it to me, but he's gaslighting me, making me second guess myself, like, well, did he say that? That's the intent, to get you off balance and to make you doubt them yourself, right?
Right.
And gaslighting is
that's the crazy making part.
It's the crazy making, and it's abuse.
Yeah. And I would be like,
yeah.
I know that I heard him. So I started recording our conversations.
Absolutely.
So it's right here. I recorded it. You can't deny it now. But then it's still.
Yeah, the crazy making, that's the crazy making. And once you start experiencing this stuff and you know something's way off, you start looking for evidence. So you will do things like start recording, or you'll do any number of things to try to figure out what in the heck is going on here. Because again, you will know in your heart and soul that something's very wrong, but you don't have a name for it. You really don't know what it is. And so you're looking for evidence to try to, validate what you heard, what you're feeling and seeing. And the truth is, when you get to a point where you're doing that in a relationship, number one, it's time to go. But number two, you can very likely be dealing with a narcissistic personality disorder. Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. Yeah.
And then so, the criticisms.
Criticism. So they're quick to criticize you, but you criticize them about anything. And they will do anything from completely ignore you, give you total zero contact, right? They'll stop calling you, start hanging out with you, to flat out going into a full-blown rage. It just depends how long you've been together and the nature of your relationship. Right. But the slightest criticism, you could tell them, hey, honey, the chicken was a little undercooked. Can you throw it back on the barbecue? It could be something as little as that and as innocuous as that. They will take it as a deep personal insight slight, and they won't talk to you for the rest of the evening.
Yeah, and in fact, that's they may part say, of also withholding.
Oh, absolutely. They withhold affection as punishment, right? But speaking on withholding, narcissists lack the ability to be intimate with someone, and that really especially shines through in a romantic partner. They don't know how to do intimacy, and quite frankly, intimacy scares them to death. So when you start having a conversation with them and say something like, honey, I wish we had more intimacy. I would love if you would hug and kiss me more. I'd love to feel more affection from you. You're going to freak them out, because that intimacy, they're deeply, deeply afraid of, right? And they're going to completely pull back from you, which brings me to the relationship cycle, which is idealize, devalue, and discard. So all narcissists do this. When they first meet you, you're amazing. You're going to give them all this great narcissistic supply. You think they're amazing. The more amazing you think they are, and verbalize that, the more amazing they think you are, right? Because you're giving them that supply that they crave and need. But truthfully, again, the slightest criticism will completely tear that apart. Yeah, they're very, very sensitive, and they'll do things that make absolutely no sense. I experienced a time where I had a small argument with someone. I mean, it was like minor stuff. And this person who I was living with told me they're taking their son and they're going to a hotel at 9:30 at night. They're going to go to a hotel for some minor little incident. And it's just, these are like, what are you even talking about right now? You're going to a hotel at 9:30 at night with your, 8-year-old son. Right. So these over-the-top reactions is very, very common. It damages their ego. These people, they may act like they're at the top of the world. They may act like they're the greatest thing since sliced bread, but really deep inside, they're deeply, deeply insecure.
And you know what the thing is, when you're in a relationship with a narcissist, is that they show up absolutely amazing.
They do.
And then you go to parties and stuff, and people don't understand why is she upset?
Right.
But he's acting like everything's okay.
Right. Absolutely. No, and they will. And that's getting into some of the differences between covert and overt narcissism, right? So overt narcissists tend to be very charismatic, right? They're the life of the party. Covert narcissists, which we're talking about today, are quite different. In fact, in some ways, they seem to be the complete opposite. Rather than walking into the room and being the life of the party, for example, they'll be wallflowers, if they even go out at all. Most covert narcissists have very few friends. They don't want to get close to anybody because because they don't have the ability to empathize, their behavior really isn't normal. And people have called them on it in their lifetimes. So they tend to shy away from friendships for fear of getting hurt. They know they're a little different. Yeah, exactly. Or known, right? But they don't want to get hurt. So covert narcissists tend to have very few friends. They're introverted. They'll fish for compliments. They'll actually put themselves down. They're actually self-deprecating, believe it or not. Very different from the overt narcissist. So they may say something like, I'm just not good looking. Nobody likes me. I would have a hard time dating anybody because I'm just not good looking. What they really are saying is, give me a compliment. What they really are saying is, tell me that I am good looking. Tell me that I am a great catch. That's what they're fishing for, a compliment, but they do it by putting themselves down, right? They'll give you their sob story. Another thing unique to covert versus overt narcissists. Covert narcissists, when you meet them, they're going to tell you their entire sob story, and some of it may be real and some of it may not be. But they'll tell you how horrible their child was, how horrible their parents were, how horrible every person they ever met in their life is. All their exes are crazy. And this is something that all narcissists do. All their exes are crazy. That's what they say, because when a relationship ends, they will never, never allow anybody to think that it's their fault. They'll never allow anybody to think that they did anything wrong to cause the end of the relationship. So the lies that they will tell about you, you will not believe that this could come out of this person's mouth who said that they loved you and once treated you so well, right? The manipulation, they'll talk about you to all your friends, right? They're going to call your friends, they're going to call your family and give them a sob story about you. And those people are going to can possibly take their side. I'm not going to say they are going to. This has happened to me. One family member did take that person's side. We don't speak to this day, and it's been 15 years. And other friends that he called obviously knew better and didn't fall for it, but this is what they do. They cannot have anybody believe that they did anything wrong. You're the crazy one. You're the gold digger, right? You're the nasty one. You're the abusive one, when it couldn't be more opposite. So it's twofold. Again, they do this because nothing will ever be their fault, but they also do this because they want to isolate you from your support system. Right. So it's twofold.
Much. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, and what makes them different from just a jerk, because when we break up with people just tend to do hurtful things, nasty things. The difference between a narcissist and someone who is just, feeling bitter because of a breakup, the narcissist truly, truly never feels remorse. Not an ounce of remorse, not an ounce of shame, not an ounce of regret. They will never apologize. In their brains, because their ego is so fragile, their mind will actually never allow them to accept responsibility. So in their brains, they really are not the problem. In their brains, it really is you, right?
Wow.
And
that's
just
true.
crazy
And
making.
that is crazy making too. But I just want to encourage the women who are in it or going through it that there's nothing you can do.
That's correct.
Is just who they are. And the longer you stay in it, it will explode, so to speak,
Well,
and then you will fall back.
It erodes your already low self-esteem, because it is women with low self-esteem that tend to be with these men, really givers, right?
Yes.
So not only will you wind up with worse self-esteem, but you could actually wind up with some forms of mental illness yourself, such as severe depression, severe anxiety. And if the abuse is bad enough, you could wind up with PTSD if you stay in it long enough and it's bad enough. So you have to understand that these people don't change. You can't love them into being the person they used to be, because the person they used to be doesn't exist, right? You can't fix them, because it's actually a change in their brain very early on in childhood. Unless you're a surgeon and you can go in their brain and add more brain matter and neural connections to parts of the brain that experience empathy, you're not going to be able to fix them. They're not fixable, and they're very resistant to treatment of any kind, even if you can get them to go.
Okay. So let's say we've got about 2 minutes left. So I just wanted to share a couple of resources So there's a website called Narcissist Abuse Support and tons of information in there. And the website is narcissistabusesupport.com. There's also a book that I read called Should I Stay or Should I Go? Surviving a Relationship with a Narcissist. The author is Dr. Ramani Durvasanta.
She's amazing. She's amazing.
Yes, that was an amazing book. It just woke me up. And you may be scared to read it, but you got to invest in yourself, because going on like this is just going to be crazy.
No, it is.
Paula,
It is.
our time is up. I thank you so much. There's so much that we can talk about here. I'm going to have you back to talk about the overt narcissist before the end of the year. And just a lot of information. I learned so much in just this short time with you. So thank you again.
You are so welcome. You are so welcome. And I just thank you, because this conversation hopefully will allow a lot of women out there who are experiencing things that are crazy making, experiencing deep hurt, things that just make no sense. And just learning there's a name for it is life-changing. Learning it's not me. Yes. It's not me. There's a name for this. Yes. It's life-changing. So thank you for doing this for women.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing with my life coaching, because I've been through it. So I know what, where the pitfalls are and where a woman is at that point. So as always, people, my desire is to bring awareness, let you know you're not alone, and partner with you to navigate your path as you move forward to a life you desire. Subscribe to my YouTube channel at Rosita Sells Homes for recordings. Thank you so much. We'll see you again. Thank you so much for listening to Moving Forward for Life with Rosita. Discover your way home. Through my own personal healing journey, I've come out stronger and braver. I know firsthand how hard, how lonely, and heartbreaking it is to continually live in pain. As we work together, you will discover the good, the bad, and the not so pretty parts of yourself, so you can uncover the fabulous in you. Discover what you need to come home, whether that's a physical home or the home in you. Join me every second and fourth Friday at 12:30 p.m. Pacific.